Go,
All
go.
right, so we are getting started. We have 7 lucky people already online. Hey guys, can you say hello to us in the chat and tell us where you're signing in from? Michael,
Right.
Copenhagen, Vera, Portugal, Stockholm, Montreal, London, Berlin,
Nice.
London, Paris. Oh, super international. You guys are almost as international as us. Actually, you guys are much more international. Toronto. Cool.
Gothenburg.
This is fun. Okay, nice to meet everyone. I'm going to do a little short intro for those of you that don't know who Le Wagon is, and then we'll also intro ourselves because we too have a story. We're not just all Le Wagon. For those of you new to Le Wagon, we are a coding school. We were founded in 2013 in Paris, France. And to date, we've had 7,000 people graduate from our courses, 9 weeks long intensive and 24 weeks long part-time, in namely web development. So for the past 6 years, am I doing that math right, guys? 7 years, we have been running these web development boot camps that are built for complete beginners, and in 9 weeks or 24 weeks, our students get all the skills to either launch their startups, find jobs as junior developers or product managers, or gain the skills to become autonomous in their work. So tonight you guys are actually, and I'm not going to intro the, don't worry, Ugo, I'm going to let you intro the workshop itself, but we're actually giving a workshop that we give in the boot camp, because in the last 2 weeks of the boot camp, students actually build a product from scratch in teams of 3 to 4 people. But before they build the product, before they actually start to like engineer the product and start coding, they have to design it. And so this is actually the workshop we give, or the lecture we give on the product design sprint day before they go in and actually start building. This is in the middle of the boot camp. So it's always a super fun workshop. I'm glad we're now giving it publicly because it makes these tools much more accessible and it empowers people. So I hope that you guys all take something away from this workshop and are able to be very creative while you're staying at home and see some of your ideas come to fruition. Just some ground rules before we get started. Please use the question tab in Livestorm. If you have any questions, ask in the question tab. And the TAs that are on this call, who will introduce themselves, will answer your questions in the question tab. Also, at the end of the webinar, everyone will get a replay link. So for those of you that are like frantically worried about, not missing something, you will get a replay link at the end of the webinar. You can download this video. You can watch it over and over and over again. So for those of you that have a crush on Ugo, you can't have his number, but you can watch this video over and over and over again. And that was inappropriate, sorry. And then also, we're going to give you access to Le Wagon's Learn platform. So the Learn platform has the slides, it has challenges, it has and it has another video that actually is with our CEO, Boris, so like straight from the horse's mouth giving this workshop. So if we don't get through everything today, because frankly, 1 hour, it really is a sprint for us, we're going to give you access to the platform, and you can continue watching there and practicing and testing your prototyping Figma skills. So that leaves me at, my name is Shannon. I will be giving the second half of this workshop. I am the driver in Lisbon. I'm from Dallas, Texas. And I love to teach people new skills and learn new skills myself. So this is exciting, and I'm glad everyone can be here. Who else wants to introduce themselves before we hide ourselves from the camera while Ugo talks? Gus? Rita?
I can do it. Hi, I'm Rita. I'm from Portugal. I did Le Wagon in Portugal. And I was before a graphic designer, and then I went to the world of tech with UI UX. And I still working there from time to time.
Yeah.
Gus, you want to go next?
Yeah, next.
Can you still see me? I have some notification that my page is trying to reconnect.
I see you.
Yes, okay. My name is Gus. I am running Wagon here in Spain. We are based in Barcelona and Madrid, and I'm a front-end and a design teacher in our campus. I'm excited to today and join all of you to this little journey through product design.
He's a very good designer as well. Not just, you're like furniture design. Anyway, besides the point. Everyone here is a good designer. I'm the only one that's not, which is why it's ironic that I'm teaching the design portion, but it's so that you guys know it's very accessible. So, Ugo. Oh wait, Alexis, do you want to introduce yourself before we get started?
Yeah, sure. So,
I think he lost connection.
I'm Alexis. I'm currently working as a... Is it okay, Ra?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm currently working as a product manager, and I did Le Wagon 2 years ago in Paris. I did it to actually transition from a career in aeronautics to product management. And so it was a way for me to better understand how to work with developers and also to better know how the products we use on a daily basis are built.
Cool. Thank you. So, like Alexis, my name is Hugo, not like Alexis, of course, but I'm like him, a product manager. So I'm a product manager at a Portuguese startup called Unbabel, and I did Le Wagon almost 4 years ago. I was batch 28. Now they're already in batch 400 or something like that. So a long, long time ago. I've been connected to Le Wagon since then, and it's a pleasure for me to be here today to help you understand a little bit better how to build, how to figure out what to build and who to build a great app, and how to test your ideas essentially. So let's move on with this. I'm going to start by sharing my screen, and here we go. So the goal today is to go a little bit over what is product design and what do you need to do to figure out what you should be building, who should you be building for, and how to best test your ideas and get input so you can be as sure as possible that when you build it, you are building the right thing. So 3 main components for today. We're going to start with an essential part of figuring out a rounded description of what you want to build and what you should be building, which is the product pitch. After that, we're going to go to the user flow. In between both, we're going to do 3 exercises for you to get a better sense of how everything works. But then we'll move to the user flow, which is essentially what are the steps that your user needs to take in your app, and how do you map them? How do you create a flow chart that represents them so it's communicate with both designers and developers or with yourself. Sometimes we ignore this part of making ideas clear to ourselves, and it's an essential one. And the last one, last but not least, of course, Shannon will be presenting the wireframing and prototyping aspect of making it more tangible and more real so you can take it out and test with your users and figure out what's working, what's not, and what do you need to improve. So what is a product pitch? Product pitch is essentially a framework that allows you to get a concrete sense of what you're building, of what you're to find and to make clear to anyone who asks or to yourself what you're building and who is it for. And it's essentially 5 components. So first of all is, who are you building this for? This is an essential part of this process. It's quite common for when we have an idea in the early stage, we haven't been in this kind of product thinking for long, to think, oh no, my target users, this is for everyone. And one thing that I always try to emphasize a lot when I'm talking to people about products is that when you're starting, you should be building for a really small a group of people, because the narrower that group of people is, the better you can understand them and the better you can help them solve a problem or get one of their jobs done. So be okay with going narrow. And these target users, normally you define them with two main components. One is what type of user, and then you segment under that type of user an even smaller subset. But this will be clear moving forward. Then the second aspect is the initial need, is the trigger, is what is the concrete action that these target users are trying to accomplish, and what makes them think about my potential product. It's essentially the trigger. It's the most low-level action you can think. Then it comes the goal, because for each of the actions that you might think about, they all have an underlying higher level goal behind them. The goal essentially answers the question of why does the person want to do that initial action. And then we move into the competitor space. Most people, or a lot of people, when start also building products, are like, I don't feel there's a competitor for this. No one ever done this. And that's rarely the case. For most products you can think about, I would say almost 100%, there are always competitors. Some of them more direct, some of them exactly in the same space you're planning to build something, some of them a little bit more sideways, but that still are competitors with you. And in a moment, I'll give you a cool example of how this kind of dynamic plays out. And then if you have competitors, one of the things that you always try to accomplish is to be different from them. Otherwise, it wouldn't make much sense for you to build something exactly like your competitor. It would be quite hard for you to go to a user and say, hey, use me instead of that, if you don't have anything different from that. So what is your unique value proposition? What is your differentiator? And this all wraps up in a sentence. This is essentially how you should be thinking about your product. All those 5 characteristics I listed there are present in this sentence. So if you can frame it in this way, it's going to be a lot easier for you to communicate with possible investors, with possible partners, of what really you're trying to accomplish. And the sentence is essentially this format. For these type of users, with a type and a subsegment, who need to accomplish a specific action, a concrete step they want to take, and here is where you go for the higher level goal of what really drives that concrete action. What is that person trying to achieve in their lives? They choose, of course, your product, because it allows them to, and this is where you say it allows them to do X because the other ones don't. So this is the unique value proposition of your app. It's your differentiator, unlike, of course, all the other competitors you can think about. With an example, this becomes a lot clearer. Let's use an example of an app that I imagine most of you know. Airbnb, it's a startup that is now commonplace in almost every conversation about travel and about finding a place to stay. Let's use them as an example. So for Airbnb, is for travelers, this is the type, and then we subsegment in 30 years old who need to book a place. This is the concrete action. This is what the person is looking for immediately. They want to book a place, but they book a place. Why they want to book a place and why do they choose Airbnb? Because it allows them to live authentic experiences and want to live authentic experiences. They choose, of course, Airbnb because they can book homes from locals. And if you see, this connects with the want to live authentic experiences. The because answers the want to part of this phrase. Unlike Booking.com, which is a competitor of Airbnb, mainly focused on hotels, where you get a kind of depersonalized experience, not the same one that you get when you use Airbnb and you book a home from a local. So the action is the concrete trigger, the concrete step that the user is trying to complete, is the initial trigger, is what makes them go and look for this solution or that solution. The goal, the objective, the goal is the objective that the users want to accomplish, is where they want to see themselves in the future, is a higher level, more, let's call it, more personal aspect of the decision that drives them towards your product and not towards a competitor. So let's see a couple of examples of both needs and goals and how they interplay together. As I said, you're going to see that the goal is essentially the answer for the why of the need. So for Airbnb, the goal, the need is to book a place, but the goal is to live authentic experiences. For Google Analytics, which I also imagine most of you know, it's a Google tool that allows you to analyze your website traffic and behaviors and to figure out what people are doing in your app. That's the need that makes people go look for Google Analytics. But what they really want to do, the why they want to analyze traffic and behavior, is to improve their conversion rates. That's what, at the end of the day, will make a difference in that person's life, because just analyzing traffic and behavior by itself doesn't bring much value. Trello, on the other hand, is a project management tool that it's essentially a set of columns aligned with cards that you can move from column to column. And it allows you to manage a pipeline, be it a sales pipeline, be it a product pipeline, be it a feature set. So it's a project management tool. But people are looking, the need is to manage the pipeline, but at the end of the day, what they want, if we're talking, for example, about sales, is to close more deals. The goal, the ultimate goal, is to close more deals. Typeform, it's a competitor of Google Forms. It allows you to create surveys, online surveys. So, but that's the need of the person who goes to look for Typeform. But what they really want at the end of the day is to generate new leads through those surveys. And last but not least, Netflix allows you to watch movies and series. But what the goal of watching movies and series is to be entertained. And here is what I'm going to go for the competitor example. So Netflix founder, some good years ago, someone asked him in a conference, so who do you think are your competitors? And the answer he gave was quite amazing, which is, my competitor is a glass of wine, because it synthesizes this idea that whatever people can be doing that allows them to reach the goal without using your product is a competitor, even if not a direct one that you would think immediately about. So in the same app, it sometimes happens that you have different kinds of users. This is quite common in marketplace apps where you have buyers and sellers. So in the case of Airbnb, it's quite clear to see that the travelers want to book a place, but the owners don't want to book a place. What they want is to rent their homes. So this is something that you will see when you start looking at products with this kind of more productive mindset, is that there are different users and different needs, and building an app and building a service, a product that helps them, needs to take this into account. But even within the same type of user, you have different segments. So those segments normally have different goals. If we look at Google Analytics, we already saw that allows you to analyze website traffic and behavior. But at the end of the day, the goal of a UX designer when they're looking at that website traffic and behavior is to improve the conversion rate, is to see in which steps of the funnel are people dropping off, is to see if a specific element on a page is being clicked or not, so they can move it to a more obvious place so they can improve those conversion rates. But if we're thinking about a different segment, like marketing managers, they don't look at Google Analytics. The goal of their usage of Google Analytics is not the same. What they want is to optimize their campaigns and increase their traffic. They still want to look at the website traffic and behaviors, but the ultimate goal is quite different from the UX designer. So the differentiator, the uniqueness of your app is what makes users choose you and not your competitors. This has a lot of different ways to be thought of, but mainly it can be price. For example, you can have exactly the same product as one competitor, but be 1/10 of the price. This could be a good enough differentiator. In some other cases is the simplicity of the usage. Let's look at two examples. So Typeform and Google Forms, they both allow you to create online surveys. But as you can immediately see from these two screenshots, one of them takes care of design in a way completely different from the other. The simplicity of usage of Google Form it is pretty good, but if you want to make something that looks good, that works well on mobile, that creates a dynamic on the user experience, you probably go for Typeform. So Typeform in this case is focused a lot more on design, and Google Forms is a lot more on speed. You can set up a Google Form in less than a minute. Another example is Travel and Pipedrive. So if you look at the interfaces, they look similar-ish, but Travel, being a more generic tool, isn't as optimized for the sales process as is Pipedrive. So it has essentially the same set of features, columns and cards, but the way Pipedrive was optimized for the sales process makes a big difference. But Travel, you can use it for a lot more. This goes on that dynamic of specialization versus being a more generic tool. Now we're going to go for a different, for a little bit of an exercise. Essentially, not only one exercise, but 3 exercises. Let me just close this and switch to here. In these exercises, we're going to go through the product pitch, the one that we already saw. Then we're going to do one which is a little bit different, but accompanies the previous one and the third one also, which is building a UX persona. When the who part of the product pitch is answered in more detail by the UX persona. Who is your primary customer segment? What do they do? What do they want to achieve? What are their typical behaviors? So this is the product persona. And then we're going to go into the user journey. So who's the persona, the task and the goal? Where are they? Giving us a little bit more of a feel of what are the constraints that this person is presented with, and then what are the steps that they need to take to achieve whatever goal your app is supposed to help them achieve. So let's go for the product pitch. You will have access to a similar spreadsheet to this. Later on in the Learn platform, as Shannon described. I believe the link will be shared with you at the end of the webinar through email, but please ask on the chat for anyone to confirm. So let's focus on Airbnb, the example that we were using, but let's go for a slightly different user segment. We'll come back to it on the user persona, on the one that we already saw. But let's focus on a different user segment of Airbnb. Of course, some people use Airbnb because they want to live more authentic experiences. But truth is that some others use it for different reasons. If we think about, for example, students in their 20s, they live in college, they don't have a lot of money, they need to find a place to stay or to book a place to stay in the same way that the previous user segment needs. So find a place to stay. This is a place. This is common to both. But the big difference comes here. The ultimate goal of a student in their 20s who's short on cash is when they use Airbnb is not to live an authentic experience. Is essentially to find accommodation without killing their budget. So, and they choose, we're talking about Airbnb still, because it enables to find a cheaper place to stay than hotels. And here, probably the competitor would still be something like booking.com. So this is essentially the product pitch still for Airbnb, but with a focus more on the price aspect of Airbnb and less on the genuine experience you get from finding a place through it. Now let's go for the persona. Let's go back to the initial example of someone who wants to live more authentic experiences. I don't have a profile picture to add here today, but although I don't have it, let me just emphasize how important it is to have it, because it gives, search for a picture that kind of fits the persona that you're thinking about. It will make it more tangible and it would make it more concrete, so you can better refer to the persona whenever you need to make a design decision in your product. So the name could be Elisa, and her nickname is Lee. She's 33 years old. She lives in Portugal. Portuguese. She's Portuguese. She lives in Portugal. She's a graphic designer. She's married. And her income is reasonable. She doesn't make a huge amount of money, but it's a reasonable income. And now we come to the place where we think about what is she trying to accomplish in this goal. So we already know she wants to live authentic experiences, but let's make it even more concrete. What does she want? She doesn't want to go to crowded touristic areas. She wants to sleep in genuine houses, not that kind of impersonal hotel experience. She wants to find hidden gems in the city. And she might also want to, she looks for weird souvenirs. I'm pretty sure I have a typo there somewhere, but I think you can handle it. And now we go for typical behaviors, and these typical behaviors are normally focused around the experience, the search experience that she goes through when booking a place. So what would be the things that she would care about, and how would she behave? She plans in advance, for example, at least 2 months before. This all serves one big purpose, which is whenever then you're building your app, it serves as a reference point for you to make decisions. She really loves to travel, so she doesn't care that much about prices when traveling. She saves a lot of money, so she can invest on this. She uses the map to look for non-central areas of the cities she normally visits, non-central areas. She sorts the options by the look of the place she's looking for to stay. And okay, she cares greatly about hygiene. So she wants to make sure that whatever place she goes, she can be sure that it's clean and pristine. So this is essentially the person you would be building Airbnb for. If Airbnb didn't exist, this could be a valuable user for you to address. And now let's go for the user journey. So the user journey is, this is Elisa, book a place. The user journey is the steps, the theoretical steps. It's not about screens, it's not about clicking, it's not about dragging, it's not about scrolling. These are the steps that could be done in a lot of different ways. They could be done by voice, they could be done with a UI, they could be done by calling someone. It's not supposed to be about specific interactions or patterns of interaction, but more of what are the actions on a more generic sense that she's trying to take. So the first part is the context. So she wants to book a place when traveling to, I was gonna write Dubrovnik, but I'm pretty sure, no, I'm gonna risk it. Dubrovnik, I hope I got it right. In the summer. Let's pretend we're all free in the summer. I'm pretty sure we won't, but we can, a man can dream. And her goal is to find a place outside the old town, which is crowded and has good places to stay. So, and then the initial context. So when she's performing this, when she's looking for the place, where is she? This is essentially to give us a sense of the constraints. Is she using a mobile? Is she using a desktop? Is she angry? Is she anxious? Is she joyful? So this is for us to get a better feel of what's the mindset of this person when she's looking for. So let's imagine at her house near Ribeira, in Porto. If you haven't visited, you should. When it's late on a Friday night after a tough week, it was OKR week, so she's with her husband and the dog. She's using her mobile, her latest iPhone. She always has the latest smartphone, and she's tired but hopeful. She's tired but excited. Okay. Now we get to the concrete steps. So let's imagine we're building a mobile app. She opens the app. She searches for places for 2 weeks in August. She looks at a map with results and goes outside the central area. She finds an available place that seems interesting. She looks at the pictures of the place. She likes the pictures. She then reads some reviews. Recall that she cares a lot about hygiene, so she looks for the reviews when she's to figure out if there were any complaints regarding hygiene. She confirms how much it will cost. She doesn't care that much about money, but if it costs 5,000 euros each night, she probably can't afford it. So she confirms how much it will cost. She books it. She loved it. She books it. And she sends a message to the owner, and she waits for his reply. So for each one of these, we also try to think about what is how is this person feeling in this moment. When she opens the app, she's determined to find a place today. When she searches for places for 2 weeks, she's a little bit fearful because she's not sure if a lot of results will come up. Here she sees she has a lot of results, and she can check even places outside the central area, so she's kind of relieved. She finds a place that seems interested, so she gets excited. She looks at the pictures, she stays excited. She reads the reviews. She gets relieved. There's nothing weird there. She confirms the prices. She's a little bit anguished, but it's okay. So she finds that she books it. So she's feeling, let me see, hopeful. And she sends the message, feels confident, and she waits for his reply. Here I would say she looks a little bit excited. So this gives you essentially a frame for you to know about what are the steps of the journey on a more generic sense, not focused on screens or anything. So these are the 3 exercises that are a little bit part of user research and will help you build a better app. So going back to our slides. Now we move into the user flow. What is a user flow? So essentially it's taking the core parts of what we just did, of describing the user journey that we just did, and going into and mapping them in terms of screens and actions. So we're going to be doing this in a really cool tool called Whimsical. The link will also be in Learn when you sign up. So let's do that now. So Whimsical, you can see I already logged in, but okay, Whimsical, you start with something like this. and then you create a flow chart. I can't because I have already mine limit, so I'm going to use this one that I already have here. Let me just delete this element. So in Whimsical, how we do this, how we map this user flow is we use a shape when we want to describe a screen. So like this, let's give it something like this, and we put the name of the screen here in the middle. With this. So I go here and I do, this is the, let me just, I would love to have this slightly bigger, which I can't for some reason. Let me just test something. Maybe exactly. Let me restart because I was so zoomed in that this shape was just taking all this place. So zoomed out that I need to refresh my page. Allow me 1 second. Okay. And now 50%. Okay. So again, I add a page. So she gets to the home page of the screen. Let's give it a little bit of color. Let's zoom in so you all can see. And then I just click here and I get the second page. And when she enters Dubrovnik, let's do that first. Let's double click here and she searches for the city. She's taken to the list of places. And she clicks one place, she picks one place. She's taken to the detail of that place. Sorry. And then she clicks the gallery so she can see all the pictures. Clicks pictures. She's taken to the gallery, all the gallery with all the images of that place. She then closes the gallery, closes the gallery. And then she decides to book the place. She's taken to the payment page, and then she pays and she's taken to the confirmation page. And this is it. This is essentially the most basic flow that you could get of Airbnb. She lands on the home page, searches for the city, she sees a list of options, she selects one, she sees the details, she clicks the pictures to go and see all the pictures that are available because she focuses a lot on the looks of the place where she's going to stay. She then closes the gallery and returns to the details of the place. She makes a decision of booking. She goes to the payment page, she pays, and it goes to the confirmation page. So the yellow ones are pages, the ones in the actions are in the arrows. So this is essentially how you would map your user flow in your in Figma, in Whimsical. I'm already ahead of myself. So this is it. From my side, it's been a pleasure. I'll be here if we have some time to answer any questions you might have at the end. If not, pleasure spending this time with you. I'll now hand it over to Shannon. So
I go by Seb now. Oops, sorry. I shouldn't have turned on my camera. Is that you or me?
No, I need to close mine. Okay.
Okay.
And now over to you, Shannon.
And
thank you.
Feel free to not leave me as alone as we lift you, because that sounded scary. Okay, I just want to say, first of all, we don't have that much time. We should be done in 15 minutes. So I'm not going to go into...
Sorry, I took
What? No, it's fine. The good news is we have all of this recorded and you guys are going to have access to our Learn platform. And in the end, this is just about practice. So I'm going to go really quickly through Figma, but it's really up to you to practice. And I think what I'm going to show you guys, what's the most important, because frankly, I think everyone on this chat is smart enough to figure out Figma if you're smart enough to figure out Livestorm. Like, I really feel like it's that intuitive. Even for those of you that haven't used like a design tool before. So I'm just going to go over the basics, but don't stress, because you're going to get all the access to Learn that has the slides, that has the Figma tutorials, the videos, and you get to do it with Boris, who is like the coolest CEO ever, and is also, you know, a really good bootstrapper / designer / product guy. So it's really fun to do with him as well. I also want to say that I am not a designer. Unlike Rita and Gus, I am not a designer. And so that should give you confidence that you also can prototype in Figma. All right, let's get started. I'll stop talking. I'm just going to share my screen. We'll have a little bit of, cool, there it is. So, and I'm not going to ask if you guys can see my screen because Ugo said that was a stupid question. So I'm just going to assume everyone here can see my screen. And Ugo, you'll let me know if they can't. I inadvertently asked. Anyway, so first of all, let me just walk you through what this is going to look like, because we're not going to do everything. I'll show you guys the basics of Figma, but what we're first going to focus on is building a UI kit, okay? We're not actually going to start building the wireframe itself. We're going to build the components that make the UI kit. We're going to make it really simple, because if any of you guys have tried to wireframe before, you can actually find like some pretty extensive UI kits online, but we want to make, to start out with, a low fidelity prototype, like a really basic prototype, and you really only need like a handful of components that make up 80% of websites, right? Headers, links, buttons, inputs, right? Like the form entries, cards, and avatars, like up here, my avatar. So you really don't need that much, and we want to keep it super simple in the beginning so that we're not overwhelmed and we can really focus on the layout and the user experience and keep it clean, right? Because in the end, good design is clean design. And then I'm going to, so I'll demo with you guys next on how to build that UI kit. And then I'm going to show you guys how to make those components that we built into the UI kit and how we make those into components, like master components, and drag and drop those into an actual wireframe, okay? And then from there, we'll make it into a low fidelity prototype where it's actually clickable. And you know, maybe we can get through that. If we don't get through that in the next, I'll give myself 15 minutes. Then we'll go through the rest of the process, and we'll leave it to you to get on to Learn and to do that yourself. So first, I'm gonna download Figma. For those of you that maybe use Sketch or use InVision, we used to use Sketch, but Sketch is only available for Mac users and it's paid. Figma is really nice because you can use it on the web. You can also use it on PCs and on Macs, and I think on Linux, but well, I guess you could use it online, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, it has a browser application as well. And it's free up until like a certain amount of collaborators or projects or something. So it's a really useful tool. And I would say if you're not a professional designer, it's just as good as Sketch, or dare I say, I don't know what else you would use, Illustrator. But again, like this is the tool we've been using that I know. I know some of you have questions about other tools. Maybe someone like Gus could answer that in the chat. So first of all, I've just created a new project. I'm going to go up here and title the project. I think we're going to build Deliveroo. We're building a Deliveroo mockup, okay? So this is my whole project. I am going to build all of my UI kit, all of my wireframes in this project, but I can do different pages, okay? So you can have multiple pages in one project. I'm going to do 2 pages just to keep it simple. One page I'm going to call components, and I think you guys can see me typing over here on the left-hand side. And I'm going to do another page called wireframe, okay? So the components page is where I'm going to place my components. Just to outline, and again, I think you guys can find a YouTube video that even explains it better. You can watch it on. Well, I'll do it really. I'll let it really fast. Basically, you guys can build a bunch of shapes, right? And all these shapes will make up your mock-up, your wireframe. So you could do rectangles. I can drag and drop rectangles. I can select R, and it also pulls up the rectangle selector or tool. You can do ovals or ellipses, which I can also select O, and it does the same thing, right? And what other tools are important? Lines, stars, polygons, but really, guys, we just want to focus on rectangles and ovals. It's going to get us pretty much everything we need. And then also, so you can see that all of these shapes are showing up on the left-hand corner of my screen. That's where all of your objects that you're creating will show up. And then on the right-hand corner, you have access to the actual like design tools. So being able to edit those shapes that you have highlighted, right? And changing the look and feel of them. So changing the fill, and maybe adding some shadow to it, right? Changing the stroke. So there's a lot you can do. Last but not least, I realized I haven't showed you text. So you can either draw text boxes, right? And fill in the text box, right? Or you can just click text and there's no text box, right? It's wrapping directly to the text. And I can also hit T and it does the same thing, okay? And then you can edit the inside, choosing your fonts. And yeah, so you guys got the basics. Obviously, this is not getting us anywhere with building components, so I'm just going to delete that. Now, when we build a actual wireframe, right, we don't actually want to start with just shapes. We don't build it out of shapes. We build it with frames, or for your Sketch users, they're called artboards. So we're not going to build the initial screen. We're not going to use a rectangle. We're actually going to use a frame, and you can find the frame tool right by the shapes tool, okay? Or select F. So we're going to choose a frame. Now, when you select frame, if you go over to the right-hand side, you can see that they already have some predefined frames here. You can build for a tablet. They already have the measurements for different phones. We're going to stick with desktop because that's what we're building today. And I even like to build my components library inside the same width as the frame that I'm building to in the wireframe, because it lets me see if everything is in proportion with the frame as well. So I'm actually on a MacBook Pro, so I'm going to build to a MacBook Pro. And here's my frame. You can see it shows up in the left-hand side, and I'll call this components. I mean, we'll call it UI kit. So guys, if you were building, like we're building a low fidelity mock-up right now. If you were building, a higher fidelity mock-up, you would probably have to build out your components a little bit more. But for today's purposes, like I said, we're not going to build. We're going to keep it really simple, but we're going to be able to do a lot with what's really simple. So in our UI kit, you guys can see here, you have text, that includes headers, links, paragraphs. We have buttons, inputs, cards, and avatars. That's what we're going to build. So first of all, I think you guys remember how to do text. I am going to select T and just click so I can start writing. And I'm going to say, this is my main header. Okay, this is my H1. That's what we would call it. And I'm going to make this text 32, and I'm going to make it black because that's, I guess, what we want. And maybe we should change the font to, what's the font that we use? We use, okay, that's probably not big enough, but yeah, we'll stick with that. I think that's fine for now. Was there like a sans something? Okay. Oh, now I'm just getting lost in my font choice. Montserrat. Are you guys giving me? Okay. Can you guys give me a shout out on which font I should use? Because I didn't think this one through, actually. I'm just realizing. That was the one thing I don't have noted. Oh, there it is. Open source sans. Got it. That's what I was wanting. Open sans. Okay, and we'll make this extra bold. Cool. All right, guys, sorry about that. So this is my H1. I'm going to label this text and then H1. Okay, so on the left-hand side, you can label your components, all right? And you're going to see why that's useful. So I'm actually going to do another H2, and I'm going to show you guys a trick. If I want to copy this object, I can hold down the Alt key and then drag and drop. And that's an easy way to copy. And I'm going to say this is my sub header, right? And for the sub header, I'm going to make this 32, and it's only going to be medium, semi-bold, okay? And we'll call this sub header H2. All right, guys, so this is where it gets, this is important what I'm about to do here. Right now, this is just a normal object, but what I want to do is create a component out of this object. And this is important. Why? The reason that we're building our UI kit like this is so that this is actually the best analogy I have for any of you guys that have built slides in PowerPoint or Keynote, and maybe you've built like, you've designed your slides, you have built the whole presentation, you've done 90 slides, and you have designed each of those 90 slides. Like on each slide, you choose the color, you drag and drop whatever images is, you choose for each slide, and then at the end, you decide like, actually, I think I want to choose a different accent color, or I want to use a different font. And once you realize that you want to do that, you have to go back and edit every single slide in the 90 slides. But if you were smart or more strategic, I don't want to call anyone dumb, but if you had, you know, maybe thought better about how you wanted to build those slides, you would have focused on building the master, right? And so using the master to then design your slides so that if you want to go back and edit the font or change the color, you just have to go to the master slide and it changes it across the board. And maybe some of you guys were like, you didn't even know that was possible in PowerPoint. That's going to be another workshop for those of you that have to know how to use Slide Master. But anyway, that's what we're doing here is we're trying to build the Slide Master version in Figma. So we're building master components. And to make a component, you actually can either right-click and you can select Create Component, right? So you can see that it actually changed to purple and it has this little component side on the side. That's how we know it's a component. And when I go to assets, I can see the component show up in my assets, right? That's my H1. And that's actually something I could use this H1 text anywhere in my whole entire file. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to make this H2 a component as well. And I can also, there's also a shortcut key, obviously, to do it. Or if I can go up to the top and click Create Component, which is another button. Okay? And now I have two components when I go to Assets. I have my subheader and I have my main header. All right? So that's, we're gonna make a few more pieces of text, but I think following what I'm doing. Okay, let's keep on going and see how much time we have. 8 o'clock. All right. Make a few more. Let's make, okay, so we want to be careful when we actually drag and drop. I'm going to say paragraph. Actually, maybe we'll use the M symbol. We'll say paragraph text goes here. Actually, I think I should have done this a little bit smarter and made this more of like a text box rather than just a, okay, we'll go like that. Cool. And usually you guys, you would use something like lorem ipsum, like some filler text, but I'm just moving a little bit faster now. So let's go to 18 and 18, and we'll do regular, okay? And cool. And I'm going to call this text P. And then I can also make that into a component, all right? And then we can do one more, actually, and let's just do a link here, which is essentially the same as my paragraph, but we're just going to make it extra bold. I'm going to pull it to the side, and this is already called a link, but I'll rename it to link with text. Cool. So I am having almost all of my text. Obviously, guys, you probably will want to find, you might have an H3 or an H4. Again, for those of you that aren't designers, don't go too crazy with the text, but we're, you know, for today's purposes, we're keeping this very simple. All right, guys, and then we want an avatar. And for the avatar, it's just an oval. I selected oval. And we are going to make the avatar 48 by 48, which I can change the dimensions on the side here. And there you have it. So my avatar is like that. And I am going to make it into a component. What else do we want? We want some buttons and a placeholder. The buttons are just rectangles. And for the button, we'll make this 240 by 80, and we do want to add some text. Now, if I was going to be super pro right now, I would drag and drop text from that were already created into components, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. And we're going to say CTA goes here, and I'm just going to drag and drop this across the whole entire button so that it fills. I'm going to pull the text so that it's going to be even in the beginning. And I'm going to make, again, we're not going to focus right now too much on, we're making this a black and white prototype. And then when we want to go in and actually add color after we've laid everything out, we can, because we would have made these master components, and I can go back and I can actually edit the color here on my master component, and it will edit all of the buttons throughout the whole entire throughout the whole entire wireframe. So guys, I have the text and I have a rectangle here on the side. I want to group those and make those one component. So I can either right click and select group selection, or I can do Command G, okay? And I'm going to call this button. And you know, I think you guys recognize that even in components, you could have primary buttons, secondary buttons, okay? But for today, we're just sticking with one primary button, and I'm going to make that button a component as well. Cool. Actually, I'm going to wait on making it a component because I want to use this to make really quick an input. Now I'll make it a component. All right, so to make an input, I'm just going to actually swap around the colors. I'm going to make the background quite light, and the font a little bit darker, and that's going to be my input. Let's see if it's working. Cool. Okay, and we'll just rename this input. Cool. I'm realizing this is a little bit off too. We want this to be in the middle, not cool. All right, so we have the input, which is actually being called a button. I'll change that to button. And I'm going to make that a component. Okay, so guys, I know that we're running a little bit low on time. Let me just finish building out some of these components, and I'm going to drag and drop into one screen, and then I'm going to move everything to Learn, and we can show you guys Learn. So this is really, I think, one of the most valuable things that we can show you with Figma, and it's not as intuitive when you're learning how to use the tool. They don't tell you make a components library and only use master components, and it will save you a lot of time if you do this. So that's why I think it's important we just get through this, and then I can show you guys where to find the rest. So let's just finish by making our restaurant card and our item card. And to make the restaurant card, again, we're just going to want to do a rectangle, and I'm going to make it 320 by, what do we want to make it, by 240. And you guys see why it's valuable to have already laid this out on the actual wireframe, because I can see how big the card is in relation to the whole, to what the wireframe dimensions will be. So we want to add a header for the card, right? It looks like, which is going to be 160. Let's see. So I'm going to build another little rectangle. And I think like that, is that right? Yeah. And I want the card to be dark gray, and I want this to be a little bit lighter. It's going to be white. Cool. I'm just checking to see how it is. And I think we could add a little bit of a drop shadow to the card. And to add a drop shadow, I'm going to go over here to the effects, and you can see drop shadow. Now, I don't know, we'd like to say that, like, if you can see design, then it's bad design. I mean, this is how I try to think of design as a non-designer. So, like, if you can see that there's a drop shadow, then it's probably not a very good drop shadow. So I'm just going to go ahead and try to make it a little bit less obvious. Let's see if this works. Okay, it's a little bit cleaner. And I'm going to add a header for the card, which will make that 18 bold. So let's go here. Again, like, if I were being a little bit more pro right now, I would drag and drop components, but we're just going to keep it simple for now and call this restaurant name. All right, and I want to make that 18, and it's going to be extra bold. Looks good. Cool. Let's move that up. I think I'll make the card a little bit whiter, actually. Yeah, that looks better now that we have it. And I want to do some text. I want to do a category at a light gray. So I'm going to cheat and pull this down and call it category. And we'll make that 14. And we'll make it light. No. We'll make it regular, and we'll make the font white is what we wanted, light gray. Cool. Nice. And guys, if any of you are feeling like, I mean, I'm, being really specific with how I'm designing this, keep two things in mind. I've done this before, so I already have an idea of, how I'm going to design each of these components. But if you're a bit lost on how to choose font sizes, on how to choose which fonts, and how to choose the coloring, or which colors even on the grayscale, get inspiration online. I mean, Airbnb, Deliveroo, Uber, Medium, these are all applications that have beautiful design, and there's no reason why you can't, look at their different font weights, look at how everything's spaced, and find inspiration there. And that's not cheating, that's just being smart. So let's add the 15 minutes, and over on the side, which is going to be, I'm going to use this again, Control, I'm going to pull it over using Alt, and I want this to be left aligned, and we're going to say 15. Oops. 15 minutes, and I want that to be 18, but only bold. Cool. All right, guys. So I think you can see here that these are all of the components for my card. All of the components, all the shapes, sorry. So over here you have all the shapes that I've been using to build this card, right? I can either select all of them in the list by holding down the shift key, or I can actually drag, I can highlight over it and it selects all of these objects. There's one thing I want you guys to, I want to point out. Let's say I had my avatar and it was somehow like nested in between the objects. You really want to make sure that your objects are laid out in a clean way, because right now, if I decide I want to group all of these together, it will group the avatar in with my card component. So this is just something to be aware of, because it can start to get very messy when you start to drag and drop your card component into other parts of your wireframe, because you're also going to be dragging and dropping an avatar. So just make sure that there's nothing nested in between, you know, the different shapes that you're building your set component with. And I've checked there's nothing nested now. I'm doing right click, and then I'm going to say group selection. So I have it grouped, and we'll call this card, maybe restaurant card. Cool. And I, in theory, I would build another card, but we're not going to worry about that right now, because I think we have just enough to build the home screen, and then I'll show you guys what to do from there. Cool. So these are my most basic components, right? I am now going to go over to the wireframe, which is totally empty. So what do we have to do now? We don't start with a rectangle, remember? We start with a frame, right? We don't build our screens, build them out of frames. So I go here, I select frame or F, and I'm going to drop a MacBook Pro screen in here. Keep in mind, guys, that, you know, obviously a lot of our applications will scroll, so you can pull down on your frames so that, you know, they do scroll. You just don't want to make them wider than they should be, because you want them to fit the actual screen that you're building for. I know that's obvious, but yeah, maybe sometimes it's good to state the obvious. So I'm going to actually align these on the X, Y, 0 axis, and I'm going to show you guys why. So before we get started, before we start dragging and dropping our assets here, right? This is everything we've built. I want to make sure that I have like my frame consistent. So I'm going to actually pull a ruler in to make sure that, like, one of the great things about Figma is that you can have multiple people designing on Figma, multiple designers working on it. And even for yourself, like, you want to keep your screens like with the right padding, you know, on the side. So by using a ruler, you can just make sure that you're consistent with your padding. So I'm going to actually make sure that this is at a, we're going to say we want a padding of, I don't know, 100. This screen is actually, the width is 1440, so we're going to pull the padding over at 1340 over here. And if you want to go in closer, you can get more. 1330. Go in more detail. Cool. So I have my ruler that actually does not show up when I use the prototype, but it's just so that I, as a designer, know that I shouldn't go outside those lines, right? That's really what it is. And if you wanted your ruler to show outside, you can drop it outside. And when you want to get rid of your ruler, you just drag it off. Okay, guys, so first we want to build the home screen. And to build the home screen, we're going to build a banner, and then we are going to build this input, the button, and we'll try to get to this as well. So let's start off, but I'm just, you know, I'm going to build a banner. You could make this a component, but we're not going to get that detailed today. So, and I'm going to make the banner, I think I'm going to make the banner, well, I think this is good enough, this size. Cool. And we can even, just if we want to stay organized, we can call this banner too. Banner container. And I'm also going to, now I'm going to go to my assets, and I'm really going to use my assets. I'm going to pull over the avatar to put in the top of the frame, and I'm recognizing my banner is a little bit too dark. Let's lighten that up so that we can see what we're doing here. Now the banner is a placeholder because I'm actually going to want to insert an image into there, but since right now we're just focused on you know, really laying it out. We're not getting caught up on the colors. We're not getting caught up on radiuses, on the rectangles, or, you know, exactly which font to use and which way. We're really just trying to lay it out, okay? So don't get too caught up in, you know, what colors you're using. But I do want to make it just seem a little bit more visible here. Cool. All right. Now it looks like I want my H1, right? Usually we only have one H1 per page, specifically for SEO, but also it just looks nice having one big call out so people know what they're doing on that page. And we're gonna say your favorite restaurants and takeaways delivered straight to your door. Your favorite, and like we're gonna spell it American style, favorite restaurants and takeaways delivered straight to your door. I think this could be more than one line. There we go. Cool. So that's my H1. I can pull this up. And then I want to put an input, right? Because we want them to be able to search. And I want a button. So we're going to call this, I'm actually going to make this a little bit bigger. And I'm going to say, enter your zip code. And here, search find food. I don't know. That's all I want to do recently. It's just find food. I don't know about anyone else. I can't stay away from the kitchen or Uber Eats. Okay, so there you have it. There's our banner. Again, super simple. And then let's just add one more subheader here. And okay, what do I want to say? I want to say choose among 243 restaurants in Lisbon. Okay, and then I'm going to drag and drop my components, my restaurant components. I think I could have made these cards a little bit bigger, but let's see. Or maybe we want the padding to be more. Anyway, something like that. Obviously, you can play with this more. Maybe we should have made these a little bit bigger, or I could pull them in, go like this. And we can clean it up, just as you would tidy up. Yeah, so guys, I'm not going to go much further than this. We're already going over time. We don't have that many options of what to do. Still, I think we should respect our time, and we'll respect your time at least. So let me just run through really quick how this would go. I would then go on to create my screens for my user journey. And for every new screen, I would actually go horizontal, right? So like the next screen would be the index of restaurants after you searched. And then when you chose a restaurant, you'd be going to the actual restaurant page, and you would have, you know, their menu, and then you have to choose the menu, and then you go to the shopping cart. That would all be horizontal. But obviously, like on those screens, there's different states. So even on the home page, maybe you would have a logged in or logged out state. And you can show that by showing those pages vertically, right? And so when you log in, it would take you to the logged in home page. And when you log out, you go to the log out home page, but those would be vertical. This is all explained in the workshop video that you guys are going to watch after this or tomorrow, but you have access, so you guys will watch it. Where am I going? So I'm on, so then after you do all of that, then you would decide on your mockup and your visual identity. And this is when it gets really cool to use the master components, because rather than going into like your 5 screens and editing all of the buttons on that screen, you're only going to edit the button that's on your UI kit. So you're going to change maybe the color of the button. You can go in and add images to your restaurant cards. If maybe you just want to use one, I mean, in the beginning, you can use the same image for everything just to test. And yeah, so basically you set it up really well. And then when you want to go and actually upgrade the design, you can do it very quickly, and you can play with different designs. And there's some other really cool resources. Really, guys, check out like the full presentation on this and the workshop that's online, because they give a lot of great tips that I found through Wagon and I still use to this day. And also showing you how to like add images to your wireframe as well. And sources for images, which I'm sure you guys also have your own sources, but these are useful. And icons. The Nucleo app, which is what we use, is really cool. And obviously icons are like pretty essential these days for user experience. And so I think that we do show the Nucleo app, which is a free app. It has great icons that they look a little bit more high end when compared to like flat icon, and it's all consistent, right? And they have vectorial files that you can download. So I went through that last part quite fast, but again, you guys are going to have access to these slides. You're going to have access to every step that we've gone through today on Learn here. That's going to show you exactly how to prototype. And I believe, let's see. Well, and I believe you guys will be able to actually start working on Figma right away. I would say, I'm just gonna, it gets a little bit trippy when we have this open, doesn't it? There we go. Nope, that didn't work. So the biggest takeaway I would say from using Figma is really focus on building out your master components. It's gonna make a big difference to like how usable your design file is in the end. When you create a solid foundation, you guys will be able to iterate over it much faster. And keep it simple in the beginning. I mean, we really jumped in quite quickly in this design sprint to like actually mocking up your app. If you had more time, I would say like there's zoning and different ways to approach the initial prototype, but really try to keep it simple, because actually that's one of the hardest things to do, I think, with anything in life, is keeping things simple. I think when we don't really understand what we're doing, we quickly overcomplicate. So your goal is to keep it simple. And yeah, I guess like just start being creative and mocking up, and like find inspiration from other great apps out there. You're not cheating by looking at like these applications that have millions of users and they perfected the user experience. Like, we should look to them as a benchmark. I don't know, am I missing anything, Hugo?
No, I think you kind of summarized it quite well. I hope what Shannon just said, just to reinforce, because it's so easy to drift away. Focus, keep it simple. Don't stress details that. So the default for this is what I think Amazon calls type 1, type 2 decisions. So type 1 is irreversible decisions. If you make that decision that way, there's no way for you to go back. Truth is that most of them are type 2, or decisions that if you decide you want to change the cover, you can. You decide you want to change the font, you can. You want to remove that model, you can. So for the type 2 decisions, just make one for now, keeping in mind that you can revisit later. Don't waste time with details.
Yeah, Hugo has run these workshops a lot, so he has I mean, I myself even overcomplicate when it's something that's like close to my heart that I'm wanting to like prototype and create. So yeah, it's also good to get other people involved, other perspectives too. But just go for it, hit the ground running. Don't. Yeah. Anyway, we can keep on going. It's really nice to see everyone chatting here and saying thank you. We really appreciate your love that you're showing virtually. It's fun for us to do this, but more fun when you guys are receptive and we feel like we're adding value. So thank you for that. And to Gus and to Rita and Alexis, thank you also for your support here. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I can say. Thank you. We should go ahead and send the Learn platform. I don't know, we haven't sent the Learn platform yet. We're promising you guys the world, like you're gonna have access to all of this, and then we don't send it to you. Sorry, got a little bit carried away. Here, I'm gonna prompt everyone with go to Learn. I think Gus, you've already shared it with a few people.
Yeah,
slides.
And I imagine this might be shared through an email because some people already had to leave, so I imagine that could be also a good way.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're getting an email. But you guys have the button that's popped up now? Okay.
I'm going to skip it.
Cool.
I've been there already.
A lot. You guys want to add anything before we sign off? Rita, Gus, Alexis? No?
Bye-bye. See you next time.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Have a good Friday. Ciao.
It's Thursday.
Bye.
It's
No, I mean
tomorrow.
it's Friday, aren't you?
Yeah, sure.
It's easy to lose track of
Have a good
time.
Thursday night, but have fun tomorrow on Friday.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
I had
Thank you.
Bye.
ciao.
Bye.